G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. The ancient weather station, A-Tech, tells you the time, tells you the date, tells you the phase of the moon. It's got an outside temperature sender which is dysfunctional because it can't cope with the Faraday cage effect of living in a lawn locker. And it tracks barometric pressure. Weather station number 1, given to me years ago by my son. And then we have weather station number 2, Sandtech. It tells you the humidity, it tells you the temperature, and it tracks the temperature. Whereas this one tells you the temperature and the humidity, and it tracks the barometric pressure. And the Sandtech was given to me by my mother. It gives you a pictographic sun, clouds, or rain. Whereas this thing also gives you a pictographic sun, clouds, or rain. And now we have a third weather station. And this one tracks rainfall, as well as inside and outside temperature. And you can read the thing a whole lot better without turning on its interior light. We get the time, we get the day, we get the date, we get the outside temperature, we get the inside temperature, and we have a Chinese graph that runs from right to left. And then we have 8.4 millimetres of rain, which it says fell here last night, which is an assertion that it makes based on how much rain fell into its funnel onto the teeter-totter. And when the teeter-totter fills up with water, it pours it out the base. And the other side of the teeter-totter fills up with water. And this little duva has a couple of batteries in there. It has an electric thermometer in there. It has a radio transmitter in there. And from this cunning contrivance, this little duva thinks it's still 8.4 millimetres. Whereas over here we have the proper follow rain gauge, which shows us fairly clearly that there was in fact 13 mils, damn close to 13. And there are several possible reasons for the discrepancy. On the one hand, my impromptu rapid style of a lash up of somewhere to put the thing is not in the open. It may have been being shielded by the trees on the top, and or it may have been affected by not being precisely properly level. Or it may just be that it's a bit of a whib-niff of a mechanism. Wouldn't it be nice if? Including the fact that, as you saw when we first approached it, that little bucket was about 3/4 full, ready to tip. So the rain stopped last night at maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and that little bucket was going to hang onto its water and wait until next time some raindrops appeared, and it was going to suddenly, instantly jump to 1 millimetre worth of rain, or some such. I don't know how many times the teeter-totter has to operate before it counts as 0.1 of a mil, or that thing showed 8.4, so presumably it is capable of counting tenths of a millimetre. But I figure the best thing I can do for it is move it somewhere where it has more or less clear air overhead, somewhere where it can be a whole lot closer to being actually level, somewhere where we can get a double parallel rain gauge effect. So a little bit of Tasmanian oak has been tie wired to a little bit of surplus radiata pine onto some, I think that's yellow box, but it might be stringy bark. It's all offcuts. The point is we're going to get a level mounting place. Okay, so that's now set up. Boulder, whatever. So now we have double parallel rain gauges, triple if you count the one down there. And when we look at the soil moisture profile gauge, we have quadruple parallel rain gauges. How much more obsessive can one get? One of them's electric, and the other one's underneath a windmill. And the electric rain gauge, which may or may not prove to be accurate, at least it's going to function as an outdoor thermometer, which I can read from the inside, and it also gives me a good comparison between a thermometer in a shielded, reflective, sheltered environment, but out in the open, as distinct from the recording maximum minimum thermometer, which tells us the temperature. Well, it used to tell us the temperature in the forest canopy. It says we got down to 7 degrees last night, and it was in agreement as regards the overnight minimum with the electric thermometer over there on the tree stump, which is where it was last night. So even if the electric rain gauge doesn't work, the electric thermometer will give me a contrast between temperature of the air in the middle of the clearing versus the temperature of the air on the edge of the forest, on the south side of a tree, in an insulated, ventilated hutch, on the shady side of the tree, on the same side as the South Pole. Not at all ever in the sun. Okay, so while I was away, these things have made radio contact with each other. And that's the thing I was a bit worried about. We do indeed have 4 bars of radio receptivity. There we go. 1 hour ago, it says there was 8 millimetres on top of the old 8.4. So I'll just have to push a few buttons and zero that and wait for the rain to return again. And yeah, it says it's 20 degrees out there, whereas out here it's only actually 13. If we're considering the temperature of the air that's going past the thermometer that's in the shade. Whereas 20 degrees is the temperature of the air inside that little white plastic hutch in the full sun. So there you go. Now I have a triptych of weather stations, courtesy of my sun, which tells me the temperature, the relative humidity, the phase of the moon, the day and the date. One from my mum, which tells me the temperature, the relative humidity, and whether it thinks it's going to rain. And one from my daughter, which tells me what the temperature is outside, as well as roughly what the rain has been, we hope. Rain gauge triptych. Say again, weather station triptych. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.